Hello, vlog people. Well, yes, it has been way too long since I have vlogged. I've been immersed in rehearsals for the First Wives Club in San Diego and back and forth, and it's been very, very busy and very, very exciting. I can't wait to tell you about it and show you things. But for a second, we just need to focus on something that I did not vlog on at the time. People are dropping like flies. I'm just going to say it. Normally they say it happens in threes. This is happening in like 36s. It was so unbelievable. I mean, like every day. And of course, Sheryl Lee Ralph, the day after Michael Jackson died, wore a T-shirt that had rhinestones on it in Michael, and it said Michael 1958 to 2009. And I'm like, what, do you have a bedazzler in your apartment? She said, no, they're everywhere. And I'm like, are you going to come in tomorrow with a Fred Travalena T-shirt? I'm just asking. Anyway, she said, no, they're selling. She had gone to Los Angeles on her day off, and there was just like so much everywhere. They don't wait long, do they, to sell you things? Anyway, Michael Jackson. I had the good fortune to meet Michael Jackson, I don't know, half a dozen times or so. I did not know him well at all. But I met him the first time, it was like 1985 or 6. I was with Motown. Bob Jones, who was the publicist for Motown and had been since like the early days, like with the Jackson 5 and the Supremes and everything else, and he was still the publicist at Motown. And I think I was in the middle of recording, and he asked me to do it was a ladies' function or something. I don't know. It was in the afternoon. At the time in my life, I was not keen on doing anything, particularly performing it in the afternoon. And I was in the studio also. So I was reticent. I was like, I don't really know. And he said, well, Michael Jackson wants to meet you. And he said he would come if you came. And I was like, Michael Jackson wants to meet me? Really? And this was when Michael was really at the top of everything. It was a few years after Thriller and all that. Such a huge influence, and of course I'd known since I was a little child. Such an incredible talent, and I was like, oh my God, and I said, okay, all right, and I said, but what time is it? Is it early? Am I going to have to sing? Whatever. I was still kind of complaining and whining, and he said, Rosa Parks is also going to be there, and I'm, Rosa Parks? I'm there! That was also, because, you figure somebody like Michael Jackson will be around forever, and I'll get to meet him lots of times, and Rosa Parks, who changed history, who, by the way, was only about 2 feet tall. She was just the tiniest little thing. Like, I couldn't even seen her on the back of the bus. So, anyway, that was a thrill. So I met Michael Jackson then, and I have to tell you, he was kind of normalish. I mean, I was very excited and nervous because he was such a big star, and he was so gifted and so, but he wasn't like this, he wasn't strange yet. He was just, and he was so, he was like, I love the way you sing, and I was like, oh my God, Michael Jackson. So that was thrilling for me. I didn't meet him for another 10 years, and I saw him at again, it was a function, a thing, and he was a little stranger. There had been a lot of surgery since then. Through the years, I met him a few times here and there. The last 2 times I saw him was at the Michael Jackson 30th year anniversary at Madison Square Garden, because I worked on that show. That was in 2001. I'll never forget the exact date, because we shot that on the, well, now listen to me, I've forgotten the exact date. The 8th of September, and I flew back to, they were shooting again on the 10th, I think, of September. Yes, 2001, and I didn't stay for the second show because my work was kind of done. I was directing segments with Liza and supervising some music and working on some things for the show. And I had kind of done the first show, the second one was the same, and I really wanted to get to my new place, and we were moving to LA, and I moved there on September 10th, strangely, the day before September 11th. I digress. So I was working on that show, and Michael was there and rehearsing, and I shall never forget the picture of Michael Jackson pushing Elizabeth Taylor down the hall in a wheelchair. And I'd known Elizabeth Taylor, and they were both not really present, can we say. But particularly Michael, and I saw him, and he was very pleasant and very sweet, but just not really there. And even on stage, I have to say, which they say about how he would just ignite on stage, there was a slowness, a something, like he wasn't, I don't know. And then they edited it to make it seem like he was popping and turning and doing. But, and then the next time I saw him, the last time I saw him was at Liza's wedding. which, let's face it, I made fun of. I made fun of Michael at Liza's wedding and Elizabeth Taylor and the whole wedding. There's a YouTube about it somewhere that I used to do in my show. And, it was funny. It was... But at the reception after, I said hello to him, and he was very sweet, but just not really there. And Rosie O'Donnell was sitting at our table with us at the reception, and a bodyguard came over and said, "Miss O'Donnell, Michael Jackson would like to meet you. Would you come to the table?" And she said if he would like to meet us, he's welcome to join us. He's liable to come over here. So she got on the table. But you know what? That makes sense to me. I mean, everybody's in the room. It's a lot of big stars. It's a lot of going on. Be a person. Get up. Come over. Bring a cheese plate. Have a conversation. Anyway, I think the whole thing is very, very sad. It's very, he was obviously revolutionary and changed the face of music and entertainment with new media and how we saw it. And to me, mostly as a dancer, I mean, he just blew my mind, just blew all of us. And the irony of being this completely sort of asexual, afraid of sex, these stories you hear. I remember on the Bashir documentary, him talking about Tatum O'Neal wanting to undress him, and he was like, I was too shy, and she knew I couldn't do it, and these stories about these embarrassments about any kind of attraction to anyone, and this sort of asexuality. Meanwhile, on stage, he's grabbing his crotch, and he's curling his lips, and, I'm bad! I mean, where did this come from? This pent-up stuff. Oh, it's early. Anyway, I don't know. My spiritual perspective of all this is that when someone... I was talking to my friend Kathy Fabian about this, who went to the memorial, by the way. My perspective of this is when you have a light in you, and everyone has a light in them, but some people have... There's something extra. That's a gift. It's a God thing. And many of people who have that light go into politics or show business. Or they become great car salesmen. Whatever. It's a magnetic thing. And when people have that light, there's an obligation that comes with that light to share it and to put it out. Denying that light is almost a sin, right? Michael certainly had that light tenfold. With that light, people want to be around it. They want to touch it. With that, and some people are attracted to it to gain from it, to be a part of the flow of the light. Some people are attracted to it to suck from it, like vampires, and to take it. I think that happens when you become as giant as Michael Jackson. The thing is, though, when you have the light, in order to continue the light flow, you have to give it away. You have to give it away. If you see yourself as a vessel, and in order to get light coming in, you have to give it out. It has to have the God flow. God gives you light as you give it away. It goes like this. It would be like I have gasoline in my car, but I don't want to give any of the gasoline away, so I'm not going to take the trip. I'm not going to go on the adventure. I'm not going to see the sights. I'm not going to have the experience. But I'm going to hang on to my gasoline. The only way you make room for the new gasoline is to get rid of the old gasoline, and then you have a life in between. Maybe that's a weird analogy. Anyway, I think what happened with Michael, and how it happens sometimes, is people start being afraid. They start protecting themselves from the vultures and the vampires. And they start thinking that the light is theirs, and the light is not theirs. The light is a gift. The light is something on top. So they start protecting the light. And they start thinking, if I give it away, I'm not going to have it anymore. If I give it away, I lose myself. When the truth is, if you give it away is when you gain yourself. When you start becoming suspicious and paranoid and fearful, and you start hoarding and clinging to the light, you die. It has nowhere to go. And the gift becomes tainted and strange and twisted and misunderstood and no longer of service. Michael couldn't do this new tour, apparently. He couldn't do it so much that he had to die to not do it. Listen, I don't know him. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a friend of Michael's. I find it very, very sad. I find, Yeah, I think he's a victim of a lot of things, certainly of the whole childhood life, the whole that stuff, which he spent his entire life trying to recreate a childhood that he didn't have. However, as a recovering alcoholic, I recognize that part of this is self-induced. The reclusivity, the specialness. There are a lot of people who've been child stars all through their life. Maybe not to this level, but it's all relative. Many of whom get messed up, and many of whom don't. It depends on what we surround ourselves with. Michael was an addict. Michael was addicted to painkillers and prescription drugs, and now we're hearing about track marks and all these other things. And what happens when we're addicts is we become very, very, very selfish, and we think everybody's out to get us, and we have to manipulate and lie. I looked at that Bashir documentary again the other night. I got home from rehearsal, and I couldn't help it, and I went on YouTube and I found it. And I'm sitting there hearing him say over and over these lies that we now know are not true, about him consummating a relationship with Debbie Rowe and being present for his child's birth, his third child's birth, when no one knows where it came from, and all these things. He just looks at the camera and tells these things because he's trying to maintain a persona of something. You know, he's lying about his surgery. People change. Do people change? Why do people believe these lies? Please! That's how small the world got. I have great empathy for him. I wish he could have felt this much of the outpouring of love and power that he had in his life. I wish he could have felt this much of what has happened as a reflection of the gifts that he gave. Universally, this is bigger than Lady Di. This is bigger than if a politician dies, because a politician would be of that country. This is universal, and this is decades. If a prominent politician died, I'm only going to have the experience of the time of my life that meant to me. Michael Jackson was a part of my life since I was, 6 years old or something. It's very, very sad, and there's much to learn from that. And part of that is looking at selfishness and identifying it, and looking at that relative to our own lives, and how do I do that? How do I protect myself? How do I become suspicious and paranoid against other things that I think are trying to take something away from me? I had a friend that is a songwriter, and she was writing with a song partner who wanted to put their songs out for someone else instead of her record them, and she didn't have a deal. She didn't have a recording deal, and didn't have the capital to do it herself. And he wanted us to put them out, and she said, why does he want to do this? He doesn't believe in me. And I said, honey, do you think you're not going to write another song? Do you think this is your last song? Put it out there. Put it out to the world. Let someone hear it. Write something new. It is by giving it away that you create the room for something new. That's a lesson for all of us. Go out and do something wonderful for somebody today. Recognize your selfishness. Get rid of it. Stay in the flow. Make room for the new light. Take care. All right. I'll give you some information about First Wife Stuff coming up really soon. I'll take my camera to work, I promise. All right. God, this is 13 minutes of babbling. All right. Love you guys. See you. Bye-bye.